Phones, computer.
Looks like I'm recording. Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, we're all set.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and ask our secretary. Oh, at 6:23 PM. And ask our secretary to do the roll call.
Okay, so hello, let's do the roll call now. Don Gottman.
Here.
Brandon Heavener Johnson,
Here,
Lauren Hill,
Here.
Lynn Johnson. Here. Jia Ma. Yeah. Ariel C. here. Okay, so everyone is here. We have 6 members. We have enough members for a quorum.
so six out of 6 is a quorum. We just need 4. Congratulations to us. Thank you, Ariel. Next item is approval of the agenda. So is there a motion to approve? If there are no objections, Don?
I have an objection. You tell me if you want me to deal with it here or you want to deal with it when we actually get back to item B.
Okay.
Printed here under vision for the CBOC.
Okay,
I have concerns about what is being printed here. Do you want me
Okay.
to do it here on the agenda?
let's,
Because it's a discussion of what the item is.
okay,
No,
And we cannot discuss it unless we adopt the agenda.
so it's not addressing the chair report is what's printed right here, which is a vision for the CBOC, which is not part of his report.
let's address it when we get to it.
Okay, I have no problem with that,
Yeah,
just for the
yeah.
right reason.
Okay, all right,
Same thing.
Okay.
Let's move on.
I
Lorraine?
think this is where we pull the items. Yes.
From what, consent?
Pardon?
From the consent item?
This-
Yeah, so,
No, we don't do that until we get to the consent calendar.
Okay, there's another one to pull in the
Okay.
reference document. The number 4, the attendance chart is not included.
Okay.
so the 2024 attendance chart. Okay,
And approve with amendment. Page 50, that's the future agenda items chart.
Or what's your amendment?
Yeah, I believe the item numbers stand for,
We would talk about that when we get to that item. That's a discussion of an item. We're just talking about, are we gonna adopt the agenda? So when we get to that, we would discuss it there.
so you don't amend it, approve
No.
with amendment?
No, that takes time.
okay, any other, any other
Change it.
changes with respect to the agenda? Item? Okay, so if there are no objections, we'll approve the agenda as is.
Mr. Chair, on this roll call, it has to follow the bylaw sequence, namely, you go first, then the other officers, and then finally the members.
Yeah.
We don't start in
So
reverse order. So
Right.
this is, the
These are
next
just,
time,
these are just in alphabetical order.
well, no, it's supposed to follow the bylaw, not the alphabet.
Understood.
Thank
And
you.
that comment was recorded already
Oh, sorry.
before
Sorry.
the meeting, but that's okay. This is the first of a new agenda template and we're working out the kinks. So I
Thank you,
appreciate your
sir.
feedback. Okay, so the agenda is approved. Move on to item D. So I wanted to share some comments about my vision for the CBOC. And some guiding principles. Just as I step into this role, fulfills the responsibility of chair. This reflects what I think, my personal vision for the work that we're doing. So the CBOC is an effective independent bond oversight body defined by its collaborative and inclusive approach to empowering committee and community members with awareness and information about the health and productivity of the WCC USD bond program, while partnering with staff to implement creative and strategic solutions that strengthen the bond program. Some in thinking about some of the guiding principles, in terms of, our commitment as a group, I came up with a few words. Be cordial, be collaborative, be competent, be communicative, be constructive, and be coordinated. And I just felt, like sharing that as a, a starting point, for, the work that we're doing this year. So sounds like, Don, you have some discussion, that you'd like to share.
Yes, I
With
do.
on this
I
point.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
It's great to have visions. Okay, but what's stated here is not an accurate reflection of the CBOC and has not been for several years. We are far from effective. We've missed almost as many meetings as we've held either in protest or for lack of a quorum. We can't make site visits happen. We find multiple ways to keep CBOC members from speaking, asking questions, or offering comments. We silence members frequently and members of the public. We interrupt members when they are speaking. We don't get the financial reports that we need to do our job. We're openly critical of CBOC members and members of the public who express views or opinions that are contrary to those of the people in charge. So we have virtually no communication with the public or the board. We don't seek out public input. Our board has set the parameters for the yearly audits where the bar is so low that we don't really get an audit that tells the CBOC, the public, and the board about the health or effectiveness of the bond program. The auditors are forbidden from speaking with members of the oversight body unless they get specific permission from the very people who are being audited. We allow contractors to go on record and unchecked, suggesting that members of the public are telling lies. The solicitation of prospective members to the CBOC is almost non-existent. The application process for new CBOC members is extremely flawed and prejudicial, as we can't claim to be inclusive when we silence CBOC members and find ways to prevent them from even speaking. It's disingenuous to insert this into the agenda when it's far from accurate. Thank you.
thank you, Don. I really appreciate your comments. I think, well, these comments are just forward thinking, and I think being able to evaluate our work moving forward based on these principles was kind of the point of putting them on the table. In order to achieve and measure our impact, I feel like we need some guiding principles to work by.
And I don't disagree with that, but when I read that, I read it as a statement of fact. And I don't believe that is a fact at all.
Yeah,
And I think that, well, I'm 99% sure if Anton was still with us, he would agree 100% with everything I said on there, because he was the victim of being silenced numerous times by multiple people here. And he's complained many times about the lack of financial reports and the fact that we didn't have quorums or didn't have meetings, many of these things that, before.
Yeah.
But it is not a statement of fact, not even close.
okay, thank you.
I took it as an aspiration, not necessarily a fact. It's what we would like to be rather than what we are. When I read it, that's what I came up with.
Yeah. Thank you, Lorraine.
So, Mr. Chair, you're not asking for that to be adopted. That is your message as a chairperson.
Right,
correct? Okay.
yes, yes.
Thank you. That makes sense.
And maybe we can talk about adopting that at a future date, if that resonates with folks. Any other comments or discussion on this item? Okay, without objection, we'll move on to item E. Public comment on non-agendized items. Do we have any members of the public that want to speak?
I'd like to speak. As, I noticed that we did not salute the flag. We did not have a pledge of allegiance tonight. And is that intentional, or was that a mistake, and why? And you don't have to answer it or not, but I think if something like that, the board has a pledge of allegiance. I think it should be added at the meeting, and maybe we can discuss whether as a committee we want it or not, maybe at a later date, if it was intentional.
Yes, so I can answer that. But in terms of is this where we would talk about? I mean, is this public comment?
Public comment isn't, you can briefly answer the question, but we
Sure.
would not be having a discussion.
Right. Okay. So Lorraine, yes, that was intentional. And with no disrespect, I decided to omit it from the agenda. I did check with, all of our members, to gauge level of comfort. And I do think we should revisit that if folks feel strongly. But I know this is not a discussion item right now.
Right. You
And
can add it to the next agenda.
yeah, we can add it to the next agenda.
Okay.
Sound good? Gone briefly?
Well, 3 minutes for public comment.
You're not public.
Okay.
SGS?
Well, this section,
Yeah, we are
that's the thing
public.
is that this section is really
Can't be a
about
discussion, I agree,
public
because
comment.
We're going out of
and not about, with members speaking on a non-agendized item. I think it's appropriate to add it to the next
Right.
agenda or a future agenda.
Let's reassure people
but-
to be on the next one.
I want to allow you to speak on it real quick.
No, we don't wanna go against our parliamentarians.
No, you're going against the rules, sir. You need to comply with the rules, sir.
Yeah.
You're not being silenced. You are violating the rules. Stop it, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm sure glad we've got paid employees coming in here telling us. what to
Sarcasm
say.
is not necessary. This is a business
Take
meeting,
a
please, sir.
moment. Yeah.
No, it's an added bonus for you.
Let's take a breath,
Yeah.
everybody. So do we have any members of the public, online or not?
Yes.
We
Yep,
do have
we do.
2 members online, however, neither has raised their hand.
Okay. So without objection, I'll move to the next item, F. This is public comment on agendized items. This is in the agenda to allow for members of the public that want to speak at the beginning of the meeting, on any agendized item. So they don't have to wait for the item to come up in the middle or the end of the agenda. So is there any public comment on agendized items?
Will there be a chance to speak when the item comes up and a presentation is made?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
There are no hands at this time.
thank you. Okay, district reports, item G. Bond program project staff, Ellen's prepared a report for us. Ellen,
Yes,
take it away.
sir. Thank you. Just 1 minute, we'll get it up for everybody to see potentially. Come on, computer, I know you can do it. Little green button. We all stare at the little green, yay, there we go. Sorry. There we go. And 1 more click.
Make a note in the agenda to click like 3 minutes before we're
Yes.
ready for it.
This is, I'm still recovering from the fact that our computers, when connected to the owl, do not want to actually function, which is really exciting. Okay, here we are. Thank you very much. Project status update. Welcome to February, my friends. Okay, so we have a few adjustments in our standard chart. Let's see if I can. Stage Elementary School, we have some actions going to the board to be able to get this in shape to move on into design. So look forward to those. For Kennedy and Richmond, we have adjusted this into the official design phase for the modernization projects. We are in programming and schematic design. For Kennedy High School Critical Needs Project, the demolition of the 100 and 200 building We have a couple different packages that are being put together. So the boiler room renovation is preparing to go to bid. The MDF relocation project has DSA comments back that came back this week. We're really excited to see those come in. We're also working on various projects at the temporary housing area so that we can get those portables in shape for Kennedy to move into this summer. For procurement, we have Shannon Critical Needs Project, which we are advertising to rebid this week. For construction, we have Lake Campus Rebuild, Hercules Critical Needs Science Building, Collins HVAC, and Cameron HVAC are still on hold because of PG&E, although we have movement that sounds like for at least Collins, we'll be able to get power over the spring break. So we're looking forward to that in April. Kennedy Fields is still in closeout, and Pinole Valley High School Fields project is still waiting for CGS. So a quick update on Kennedy and Richmond High modernizations. We began our focus group meetings with both campuses, including some student activities that we were able to do. And so we're moving along into the design process. We do anticipate and are starting to sketch out what we could have available at both campuses, open houses, as well as the middle schools that are associated with these campuses, open houses. Those are happening in March. We do have an event that is scheduled for this Friday at Kennedy. So there'll be tables out there. It's an event the school puts on, but we asked to be a part of it so that we would at least be able to have a presence. We're also beginning to schedule meetings for general community input in April. So look forward to all of those activities. As we're also at the same time meeting with the educators to help define some of the details of the learning spaces. So Lake Elementary School campus replacement project. We are moving along. So this is Main Street between the administration, the B and the C building. Last month, we were still finishing up the siding that has been finished off because we've had some breaks in the weather. We are coming back for exterior painting. So that's what you're seeing going on here, and the primer you'll see on the metal. We're also doing tie-ins for our storm drain system. From the other undergrounds that have been put in place to the downspouts and various connection points that we have on the building. Those are getting connected and prepping for being able to install the flat work, the concrete sidewalks that are going in next. So that's what's happening there. In the front, we also have our main counter in. Unfortunately, I didn't catch it before they put the protection on the main counter, so it doesn't look like that. All the red tape is not an official part of the design. But it was exciting to see that we have a front counter. They are installing the floors though, and so they put covering over the fancy fun part of the front counter. Eventually I'll get a good picture for you guys, but this would be, as you enter in the front doors, what you would see coming into the front office. And we also have the first bit of flooring going in. So this is the library community room space. So the LVT is being put down. The walk-off carpet hasn't quite been installed yet. So that's why you still see very concrete here in the front. But this is the first room that got flooring. They will continue to do flooring throughout the 3 buildings over the next month. And we also have an image of, in B and C, we have all access restrooms. And so this area that you see right here is the sink area where boys and girls can wash their hands together. And we have individual rooms, which are the toilet stalls that are gender non-defined. So That's kind of an interesting feature for our Lake campus. Is the first time we've installed a multi-stall all-access restroom. But it has happened here in Lake. And we also have the classroom casework and lighting. So in the classrooms in the B and C building, there will be sliding whiteboards that are installed in front of these shelving units here. The sinks in the corner, the lighting you can see right here is the strip lighting. It's not really legible here, but in this ceiling tile, there is a sensor to detect the daylight from this window. And we'll adjust this bank of lighting accordingly so that we are conserving energy and utilizing our daylight. And that all happens automatically within the space. Okay, next project is Hercules Middle and High School. We went vertical, so we are now in the third dimension at Hercules, which is awesome. And so this picture shows the slab for the high school side that finally got poured in between rainstorms. We did have the middle school poured some time ago, so they were able to frame the various walls on the slab, and they have now tilted some of them up. The structural steel is also getting installed. And here we have our first beam going across. So this is in the middle school lab. That's a glue lamp beam that will be exposed when the design is completed. And then we'll have clouds, what we call clouds. The acoustical treatments will drop between the various beams. So you will be able to see the different systems and structure of this building from the inside, which was important to us as it is a science building to really show how things work and the different parts of a building. And so that's going to be a really fun space once it's completed, but it's always nice to start it seeing come together. Here, I tried to help you out a little bit. We put the rendering up top. This arrow is pointing to this pop-out window. And this structural steel right here is that pop-out window. This is what we call the spine wall. So the spine wall going across here is these structural members that you see right now. We got our little pop-out window, and then the middle school is on this side of the spine wall and the high school is on the other.
What is meant by pop-out window? Is that one just falls out on its own?
It's protruded from the wall surface. So it's kind of like a picture window, but it goes at a 90-degree angle of the wall, and the spine wall is a little offset at an angle. So it just pops out. But no, it's a fixed window. Actually, I think it's operable, but it doesn't move beyond opening and closing. Yes.
Ellen, I think it's Kennedy. Don't you have a joint middle and high school gymnasium in Kennedy?
No.
Do you have one of those? I thought we had one where they combined the two. But I notice here you're having this between the middle and the high school. Is that a cost saving? Or
Part of it is, so building one building versus building two separate buildings is a cost savings. This particular campus was originally designed as a single campus. However, that's not how it's currently operated. And that was one of the concerns when we went to the community, was really talking about how Hercules Middle and Hercules High School can each have a defined edge. And so that was part of the intent of the spine walls, was to start reinforcing a defined edge between the campuses and giving each campus a little bit of an identity. They do share a administration building as well as the library, which is this building right in front of here. If I go back up 2 slides, this is a better shot of it. So this is this shared library space right here, this building. So this sits right behind it between the two campuses. So it really is filling the gap that was mostly just a grass field. And so now it's going to be filled with a building. And so it was important in the discussions that we had with the various focus groups at this campus to really find a way to identify the two campuses without it being it's a positive thing that we're able to establish an identity for both groups.
Now, how are you gonna work that with the science rooms? Are so many dedicated to the senior high and so many to the middle school?
Yes, we
On
have
each
4
side.
for each side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine wall she's talking about that goes down the middle of the building.
Oh, all right.
And then it's kind of delineates, there's middle school on one side and high school on the opposite side of that. And that's really where the portables of the classrooms had laid out before, and that was kind of like, this building's right where the two schools pretty much split between the two previously. But they do get to share the same, storage area for chemicals and things like that, and
Actually,
Different.
each campus has a workroom. So we have a middle school workroom and we have a high school workroom. They are sharing the custodial, IDF and electrical rooms though. And so those back of house rooms are the things that we kind of save square footage for. By doing this, we also only have 1 staff toilet. Well, we have separate, student toilets for both the high school and middle school sides.
Mhm. So this was because they are so logistically close together,
Mhm.
even though they're 2 separate schools, that you're doing this, okay.
Yeah, and even though those rooms are small, they're always rooms that everybody kind of hates dedicating square footage to, right? Like, it's important to have a custodial room and a data and electrical rooms, but nobody's like, hey, let's have more data and electrical rooms. That's not the high priority on the square footage list, so if we can keep those as minimal as possible, it's helpful overall for the budget. Dedicate as much space to student use as possible. Any other questions here?
Yeah, so for the pop-up window,
Yeah,
the window, why do we want to have this design? Does it cost more money?
I mean, the cost impact would be relatively minimal in the grand scheme of things. The idea behind it was that since there is an angled wall within the lab, that allows the straight line of what would be a square lab to come out. And it gives the building a little bit more of an architectural feature. So it is a design component to this building, but otherwise you'll end up with a very boxy building. And acoustically, if we can have some walls offset, it actually helps the space with the reverberation. So slightly offsetting the square is not necessarily a bad thing for the interior of the space. And so this was more of, like I said, an architectural feature to add interest to the building and to break up the spine wall, so it wasn't so fortress-esque.
Thank you. I actually,
Finish.
sorry, so I actually have a question about the Lake Elementary School, the building B and C all access restroom.
Yes,
I think that there are only 4 individual rooms. Yeah, right.
there are
they enough?
1,
or-
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6
Okay.
individual
Oh,
rooms.
6?
And
Okay,
there's 1 in each building, so there's 6 in B and 6 in C.
gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions here. When you were describing Kennedy High School, did I understand you say that you hope to have the portables up installed this summer?
Yes,
That means you're planning to move the kids into portables?
yes.
Isn't that awfully premature considering you don't have approved plans and that and the state has another year and a half before approving the plans? Why are we moving them out of these buildings? Do you plan to tear the buildings down now and have a pile of rubble for another 2 or 3 years?
No, so the overall timeline, for us to be able to do demolition during the summer is going to take the complete summer to do the hard demolition. And we do not, and we need to start that at the very beginning of summer because otherwise we won't complete it in time so that we can remove the totality of the major portions of the structure before students come back on campus. So to be able to do that, we need to do some pre-work of safing off the building, of doing, removing all of the hazardous material. All of those things have to happen before summer starts. So we need to do that in the spring. To be able to do that in the spring, we need to move the people out. And we had a conversation with the school site about what was the best time to move them out, knowing that that's the schedule. And the discussion with the school site administration and the faculty was that they did not want to do a mid-year move. That they would prefer, if they needed to move out during Christmas break, that they would rather have that occur during the summer break instead. So then the plan is that we would demolish, or we would do these items before summer started. We demolish during summer, and by the end of that demolition, we would be ready to have phase one's work begin. And so there would not be a huge break between when we demoed the building and when we would be ready to start construction on the replacement structure.
Okay, again, I'm a little bit confused. I'm not worried about months. I'm talking about years. Phase one, what can you do in phase one? I don't know what phase one consists of, but what can you do when you don't have approved plans? I mean, we're not even talking about approved by the state. We're talking about something by the board.
So it's still a year out before we would actually demo the building. Because
I thought you said summer. That's only 4 months away.
Next summer, following summer.
the following summer. So we move out this summer. Then the buildings will be unoccupied and not in any state of construction for some time, but starting in the spring of the following year, we would begin the process of demolition where there's items that we need to do before we get to the hard demolition that needs to be done in the spring. And so that's what would occur next. And now I'm gonna get
Summer
confused.
25.
Yes, 25. So spring of 25, we would start the demolition. Summer of 25, we would do the hard demolition. And then fall of 25, we would begin construction
Okay.
on the replacement building.
I'm just, again, keeping in mind, I've worked with a lot of these schools over the decades here. And I just think that for a high school in particular, that's extremely optimistic to be able to get plans approved by the state, by Sacramento, in the time frame that you're talking about, because you're talking about the rest of the school year, even with focus groups, trying to figure out what do you want to put in? And then they're gonna start designing things, and then getting them approved in a year.
It is an aggressive schedule.
I mean, I think, well, this is your line of work. Again, I've been somebody on the outside watching this and just seeing how long it takes. And especially seeing Caliber Beta. How long did it take them to get their plans approved? That was just an add-on to an elementary school. Was it 17, 18 months?
Yeah, our architect is comfortable that, this is the direction we're trying to move on. We're trying to, one, the faster we can get into construction, the dollars go further. It is part of trying to make sure, and it's in multiple phases. So the first building going up would be the new classroom building to replace the old classroom building. So there's gonna be several different components as we move through these construction projects. So not trying to design all buildings all at once, but they're all coordinated and different packages are going to DSA as they're ready to go.
Okay, second item I had, on the focus groups. You're having focus groups right now, and you say the public will be invited in 2 months, 3 months? April?
Well, we're having an event this Friday for Kennedy. So the process is starting
With the public invited
with the
and the
public.
media?
That is,
And when is the notice gonna go out to the public and the media?
I believe it's a public event. We are not the hosts of it. We are just, joining. So I believe it's a public event, but we will do something else in March and we're going to do something else in April. But as far as the interior of the individual spaces go, which is our main focus at the moment, is defining the spaces that need to be built within the campus. Those are educationally focused when we get to look and feel, exterior imagery, the curbside, facades. Those are all things that are planned to be started in March and developed in April. And that's where the community involvement is from.
I mean, you know, my interest on these things dating back for a very long while. I'm trying to attend these meetings and, I said, I've been trying to work with the communications department to try to do a story about this, about both these schools, kind of start to finish, explaining why do we need to spend $500 million on these two new schools? Starting out with being able to go there right now, and then doing articles, periodic articles and photo essays as the work is progressing. Of course, I've been stonewalled for years on this stuff. The communications department is not communicating. Keep in mind, we're not talking about media articles. It's just, it's awkward never hearing from the district about an event like what's happening on Friday. I mean, even though you're only a part of it, we're not, the public and the media is not even knowing about this event, let alone that your little subset of it. And people just, they like to know where their tax dollars are going. They want transparency. They want to know what's going on with it in the school in their area. I just would like to see a little bit more, the district being a little bit more proactive about getting the word out. Okay. And the last thing is,
Don, we're gonna take turns going, so I think everybody needs an opportunity to ask their questions, so we can circle back, if you don't mind. Is that okay? Okay. Does anybody else have a question?
I did have a question regarding the Hercules campus. I'm very familiar with the campus, and so I know exactly where the construction is taking place.
Mhm.
The only question that I have, just want more clarity on, I heard you say that it's going to really give a pinpoint kind of separation to middle school, high school.
Mhm.
Right now, there is none, I'm sure you're familiar with. So I just kind of wanted a little bit more clarity on how it would give the campuses kind of like their individualized kind of attention or separation.
Right, so I think this one probably shows it better. So this is standing from the kind of what is it called? The Career Center, on the backside of the library. That's kind of standing on the backside of the Career Center, looking towards what used to be the portables in Grass Field. And so this wall is what we call the spine wall. And all of the all the middle school functions are on the left of this wall, and all the high school functions are on the right of this wall. And this wall has the most, it has what we call it, the DNA, this inspired design. So these lines are inspired by human DNA. And so it has the most interest. It's also the tallest wall. And so it really just defines the separation between the two campuses.
Understood, I got it.
And it runs all the way from the front to the back. So this rendering here is, too far. There we go. Patience with mouse. This wall here shows the opposite side of that wall. And so it runs all the way through the building. And has the same facade on this side.
Any other members with questions?
No.
Okay. How much more do you have to present?
Is there a question online?
Oh, yeah, there's a Q&A. There's a bubble in the Q&A. Is that old?
No. Do the restrooms where families use have diaper changing stations? We do have in the front office, we do have a family restroom. I'm assuming this is at Lake, that does have a diaper changing station in it.
You can click answer live, I think. That takes it away.
Okay. Thank you. I was referring to Lake. Yep, that's the one.
So yeah, about how much more time do you need?
Well, past this, it is only the status reports and the newsletters. And so unless those are, there's a question
Okay.
there, I normally don't present them.
Don, do you want to ask another question?
no, we just move on.
Sure.
I'm 100% sure now.
Okay.
Okay. So like I said, we have our status reports for Lake and Hercules as our two active construction projects, as well as construction newsletters for Lake and Hercules. We also, because we were transferring from a planning phase to a design phase, we did an update newsletter for both Kennedy and Richmond to denote the change of phase and to get people ready for this design component, just announcing what occurred at the board and letting them know that they should be ready for community meetings in April. that concludes my report.
I actually have one question about the bathrooms. I think it's really awesome, that design. Is there any board policy about the bathroom designs, or does that just happen to come about because of the architect or some other stakeholder that was influencing that design?
There is code changes coming, for providing all access, restroom facilities. And so there are a variety of ways that you can embrace that. However, we felt like Lake was a good opportunity, to try the all access multi-user version of this. We've had a lot of requests, to address the restroom situation around the district. And so, this was the best opportunity to do that. Within the design, there is the ability to, adjust them down the road if we absolutely had to. The clearances are there to be able to enclose them as boy and girl restrooms if we absolutely have to. It's not where we're planning on going, but we did put that in as a contingency, knowing that this was a different design that we were prototyping for this campus.
It appears the law is going stronger towards, gender neutral and making sure you have that accessible for students. So
I was also part of the task force for the CDE, California Department of Education, on all access toilets. And we took best practices from what was discussed as part of that task force and implemented it here at Lake. So it wasn't in a vacuum, as far as the design goes.
And the hand washing stations, everything is out in the open
yeah, when
essentially.
you saw that photo with the low wall, they were on the
Yeah.
opposite side of that low wall, so you had visibility into the space.
Yeah, I mean, gender issues aside, there's, I think, safety benefits from not enclosing bathrooms. I
Yes.
recall my own
Yeah, so there
experience
you
in
go.
public school.
So the sinks are on the back side of these walls. And so they, so you're able to look in. And we also look for best practices around the nation. I reached out to my international organization that work on design for educational facilities. I talked to the facilities director in Indianapolis, who has a really great examples. Minnesota. So we did do a lot of research going into creating these restrooms.
Do we have plans to implement this kind of new bathrooms to other schools?
Well, this is why we're starting this discussion. Welcome to the beginning of this discussion. We are, one of the boards that we brought to the students at Kennedy was talking about all access restrooms, to start that conversation there. And at Richmond, we're also going to start that conversation. We need to come up with the game plan of how's best to do this. But it's a very hard thing to talk about when you have no physical examples of what it looks like. It's something really difficult for people to grasp just looking at plans. So that's why, like, when the opportunity presents itself, I'm trying to bring it out to our public, and CBOC is one of those ways that I can reach out, to be able to present this, because we do know that it's something that needs to have a larger conversation around. And so we're looking for forums to be able to do that.
Thank you. I think we have a public question.
Looks like it, yeah, a couple. Oh, is that just the,
I guess maybe I need to push
Yeah,
done.
done.
There we go.
are there any student, are there any programs in high schools that we have that could contribute to providing a solution to that issue of not being able to envision? I mean, is there any architectural program in the district? Is there any students that could be able to build models or contribute to that?
Your academies that are necessarily architectural.
The
based.
academies.
Yeah, we have engineering academies, but they're more focused on other aspects of engineering than just traditional architecture. But it's certainly something we are pursuing with the, different administrations to figure out the best way to, gain additional input and understanding. Because the response to our surveys, when we did the surveys as part of our master planning process as well as our scoping process, restrooms were the absolute first priority that students had and were their biggest concerns on campus, even above windows at both of these campuses. So the restrooms are a huge issue at our high schools from the student perspective. So trying to get this right is really important to us.
Can I ask, was it a sample survey or was it a, more of a complete survey in the sense of, the entire student body participating in it?
We tried to get as much of the student body to participate. There were multiple avenues that we took we put it out there during what they call advisory time to try to get them to respond as many as people we could. Did we get everybody? No, we didn't. I believe we had about 100 students from Kennedy that responded. I can't remember off the top of my head what we had from Richmond. So did we get everybody? No, we didn't, but we did have tables out at lunch and both in the cafeteria as well as in the library. And we did multiple surveys and in each survey, it all came back at both campuses that restrooms was a very high priority to be addressed. And in every focus group meeting where we talked to students, restrooms was mentioned. So it's a big deal and we gotta figure out a better way. So that's what we're working on.
Was the PTA or, parents also involved in the conversation or the survey?
I mean, they were available to parents. We put them out on Parents Squared, as part of our outreach. We did not get the same level of response about restrooms from the parents as we did the kids. But those are for the high school, projects, just to be clear, not like.
Any other comments or questions on this report? Okay, without objection, we'll move to item item H. Bond program financial report status update. Louis?
Yeah, so tonight, I'm not gonna pretend to go through the reports with you in the detail that Melissa does, but I did want to give the update. That should have been in there.
That's what I was
I
looking
think it starts around page 30.
29.
I wonder if you- We have to download the other version. Here it is.
Yeah, well, they weren't there, so I was hoping they were somewhere.
So they're not showing in the version of the agenda we have up tonight. Would have to pull that back up. But the report's really what I wanted to update on is the consolidated budget report is in the report as you've seen last month, as well as the spending to date report is in the packet for you. Next month, we're hoping to bring back the report 13 and 13A and the AP checklist. So we should have a whole suite of reports for next month. We did have a successful meeting last week with Tyler, which Tyler is the parent company for Munis, which is our financial company, reporting. And Colby, which has been doing the bond program documents that you see here tonight, as we look to start to integrate the information from Colby and Munis. So it was a successful meeting. We have another meeting scheduled for the 26th. And with this move, we'll be moving our financials. I think you've heard before that we operate within a subsidiary ledger, the project ledger, to the general ledger. We're gonna be moving away from the subsidiary ledger portion of that, and that portion will actually be housed within Colby. We're also looking at a transparency document that actually be available to anybody online. They'll be able to go lifetime to pull up a select version of the reports online, so that'll be available to the public anytime they'd like to do that. That'll be coming. I don't want to put a timeline on it, but we've already sampled some of that reporting last week. So as we move forward with this transition between the project ledger and the general ledger and Colby Docs, there'll be more to come. So just want to give that update, but it's looking really good for us and hopefully, we're on the right pathway to get you everything that the CBOC and the community deserves.
Thank you, Louis. So in your opinion, do you feel like we will be, quote, complete on staff providing the CBOC financial reporting in a couple months or so?
That is our goal to have that, absolutely.
Okay.
And are you cutting out some of the reports that we had in the original?
I don't think
packet?
we're cutting out reports, and I wish Melissa was here to speak to it. You may see a little bit of a different format, the way that they're generated. One of the conversations that I sat in with Colby was, let us look at what reports we currently generate compared to what you're actually using. And let's see if we have a report that mirrors that. It would be much cheaper for the district to use a report that they currently have that would provide the same level of information instead of having to write custom reports that would take longer to do. So that's one of the avenues. We're also working with Colby on their end, since it's much more flexible in how they can actually run reports, how they take the data, we should be able to produce very similar reports to what you've had in the past.
Also presently in the report 13, which is the financial projections, that was based up to June 30th, 2023. Now, I know in the past, I don't know, it might be 3 years or 5 years out, how many you planned. But are you going? to
Yes, we
have-
are updating that. So that information has already been given to Colby as we were projecting projects and project budgets out into the future.
Good.
Any other questions or comments? Basic questions are welcome. Anybody? No, we're still all getting our feet wet.
I have a question on one of the financial reports on page 34. It's the consolidated budget. 34, it's the one for, we have two consolidated budgets. First one is from January. This is the one for February. It was printed February 8th. And what my question is, see all the red numbers there, and some of them are dealing with several $1,000s. Are these
This is,
short? Is this like it was a 600,000 on Chavez, the top one? Was a $600,000?
so Chavez, it's actually showing the balance.
So what happened is the approved budget was changed to
Yeah.
a lesser amount. So that's
As that
just
project was
showing
closed.
what we took out of that project because those monies weren't spent.
Mhm.
So this was the allocated budget that was reduced at one point for that particular project. The project didn't move forward in the original envisioning of the master plan, so it was removed.
Well, like with Grant down the next one, we're talking in the approved budget was like 688,000.5 dollars, but the actual spending was only 200,000. That's a lot of difference.
Yeah, and then showing the dollars that we returned back on the project.
I know,
Because it
but I
was
mean,
based
what
upon-
would you, why would you over?
Was based upon the original project scope within the master plan, and the question really was within the curricular needs, and I can't speak to that without looking it up.
Yeah.
But what we actually did to resolve the issue at hand, right? So in this particular case, I believe we put in a restroom building. I don't remember exactly what the total issue was, but that's how we addressed the concern and resolved the problem.
It would be good, maybe I'll ask for a description of these, because it looks like
Yeah.
money saving. And that would be an interesting thing to put in the annual
Sure.
report.
Right, most of these happened quite a while ago, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it's appropriate for this year's,
Mhm.
Report, but we can get you the information on them for sure.
Okay.
Like I said, I just can't repeat them off the top of my head.
Sure.
They were over time.
I think, Lorraine brings up a good point in terms of a narrative that could go along with some of the financial reporting to tell the story about why big swings of money move from project to project or,
And we can talk about how that might look in the footnotes or something, as we've done in the past. So to help clarify that as people transition in and out, things change over time as you look at the reports to better understand. So,
any other questions or comments? Okay, without objection, we'll move on to, I don't have to say it.
Because once we're done with it,
We're done, we're done.
Just move
Okay.
on.
We're moving on. Item, I, so we're in CBOC business, action items. Consent calendar, we did not get the minutes from January in time, into the packet in time, so we can remove this item and postpone till March. Item J, appointment to the CBOC member selection committee. So I believe based on our bylaws, the chair and typically the vice chair have been members of this selection committee. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Per bylaw?
That was, that was the district bylaws.
Oh,
No.
is it
You're
this?
talking about the board policy?
The board
Yeah,
policy?
board policy, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So
It
it
says the vice chair is part of it?
No, I'm
No,
just,
just
I'm
as chairman.
asking.
But
Okay.
historically, it's been the vice chair.
But historically, it's only been 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay, since this board policy became effective, so that committee became effective. So there's no real history there.
So, yeah, I would like to open up a discussion about interest, anybody who's interested in serving on that committee. And then also just making sure we're answering the question of, are we abiding by our own bylaws? If there are any directions or restrictions regarding this committee.
Your bylaws state that
Louder.
the bylaws state that you appoint a chair for each subcommittee.
Okay,
With the members?
So it's
Meetings
basically
mainly
about
with
members, so we can have volunteers, or we can vote people in.
This is, it's not really our committee.
No,
See, it's the district's committee, and they have 2 slots on it for us.
Okay,
So it's not like appointing a chairman. There wouldn't be a chairman at this point.
so do you want to ask for volunteers? or-
yeah, I'm interested in if there are volunteers or interest, make it known.
Is it possible to kind of, because I'm a rookie here, to just explain to me more about what the member selection committee is?
Absolutely. So my understanding is that this committee is responsible for not only reviewing applications that come in and moving candidates for the CBOC forward for board approval, but also for, I'm assuming here maybe that to support the outreach and recruitment efforts. Is that
So
part
the
of the
selection
scope?
committee was originally set up, and it's in the policy based on the membership, so it's to review the applications as they come in. They create the panel, they interview the applicants, and make a recommendation to the full board to appoint the positions for the committee.
So there's no component of outreach or recruitment?
No, it's really about
Okay.
processing applications as they come forward to the board.
And we can have 2 members.
We get 2 members.
I like to volunteer for them.
Like that, okay. Anybody else?
I think the chair should be one of the members. That's in the board policy. So the chair should be one of them.
I'm happy to. Don, are you interested at all?
I'm interested in a lot of things, but I'm not gonna take if she's interested, or it was made clear a couple months ago that we need to step aside and allow younger people to come in there to try to control the destiny of the CBOC.
Appreciate that. Okay. All right, so I will join this selection committee with Lynn. And we can communicate that to our board liaison. Is trustee Reckler on?
We can take care of that administratively.
I don't believe she's liaison anymore
Yeah, we have to agendize that or have a discussion.
because of her censure.
Can the public hear us? Does the
Yes, they
public-
can.
Oh.
They should be able to hear us if people. are
Even if they
speaking up.
mumble, okay.
In the future, when we do bylaws, we should also include that information, whether it's going to be just a volunteer or you're gonna rotate it between the members, whatever. When we get to that, we can decide.
Okay, thank you all. Moving to, item K. Establish an ad hoc bylaws committee. Now, these are mentioned in our bylaws, so
So it's not an ad hoc committee.
not ad hoc, it's standing.
It's standing, and even if it was not mentioned in bylaws anymore, because bylaws has a continuing job, and they act like a standing committee for the Brown Act, they are considered a standing committee. So they have to, actually, you explained this incredibly well. You really
You
did.
did well.
Okay, thank you.
And nothing can be assigned to it except
Right,
what it's set up for. And nobody else can take those assignments except what that committee set up for. That's what makes it a standing committee.
right. So it's one that will, an ad hoc committee has one assignment and it's done.
It dies.
It dies, so it's not, that continuing part is really important. Are they gonna last through the whole term? Are they gonna have a charge that lasts constantly? Bylaws committee, any bylaws committee does review the bylaws, that's constant. So plan the spring picnic, that's ad hoc. Spring picnic comes, it's done, committee dies. So this would be and again, you would, because this is one of ours, you would have put the chair on this one.
Okay, so, and not to go back to the last one, but just for both of these standing committees, I mean, just to clarify, these are Brown Act
Yeah.
compliant,
Yeah.
compliant,
So
so,
what does that mean?
Means that everything that we do for the Brown Act at this committee, like posting the agenda,
we have to do for these.
we have to do for these.
And how about public meetings?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, now, we used to have an audit committee done. Did they meet here?
Yes,
Oh, okay, so that was their public
Like you
meeting.
here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
over there,
Just one.
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
years and years and years.
but my understanding is that the selection committee has not been administered like a Brown Act compliant committee. Is that
Oh.
right? I don't know. I'm asking.
I'm sorry.
no,
Has the selection committee been run or has it been Brown Act compliant in the past? Have we posted agendas and opened it up for public
It
comment?
is not a, public interview process.
Right, so how do we navigate that? I guess this may be an item that needs to be,
That needs to go to the West Contra Costa Board. Now, the interviews they can keep private. They can go into closed session.
So we have to go-
The report out.
Yeah,
do-
but
yeah,
then
we have
we
to
still
do-
have to have a report out.
okay.
Don't they do those, forgive me, they cover that in their regular closed session? It all happens at the board meetings. Yeah, which
Oh,
means
they
they
did
are.
not? Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
No, okay.
Interviews are held, scheduled, whatever works out. I mean, for the interviewees, the board members and the committee. And then the report out is the interview of the candidate successful according to the board or to the
So they
committee.
report it out.
Yes.
And I think we
We got a
may have a
question up
board
there.
member, yeah, that'd be able to answer that for us.
Ellen, can you check that question for us?
I'm
On the,
Gotcha.
Good evening, I am here.
trustee Christian.
Was on the CBOC selection committee and will continue to be on it. So it sounds like, President Smith Folds as well as trustee Christian will be on the selection committee.
Great.
I'll take two from the.
Yep.
Your liaison is trustee Christian
Right,
Oh, instead of,
and will be on the selection committee.
okay, Don, you have a question or comment?
They're not comments, just to give you a heads up, I know that there's been discussion among the board members to revert back to the selection process that was used before this new board policy, which was to have public interviews at the facilities meetings. Not using a selection committee of 5 people, but the 2 members of the facilities committee. Again, and in public. It says they did for a decade or more. And don't know if they're gonna follow through with that or not, but I've heard that from board members.
That's good input, and, maybe if folks think it's appropriate for, Lynn and I on this selection committee to have those conversations, explore those conversations and level of interest with our board member colleagues. And we could report back to the committee, to our committee on that. Anybody feel like that's a good idea?
I was just gonna mention, currently, the facilities committee has not been reestablished. So right now, it's not an active committee. So, but we can look at
Okay,
the selection. I think you best need to just go back and visit the policy and look at the policy and see what the policy actually says. And then if there wants to be an amendment or adjustment to that, then that would be a possibly required board action for that.
So Louis, didn't the board approve recreating some of these committees like the facilities committee?
Currently, my recollection, that is not one of the committees that has been brought back actively.
You know, I don't mean that it's actually been implemented, I just thought that the authorization. Again, I'm here getting this secondhand from board members.
So
Let's see. That has not been properly agendized, so it is interesting to hear it now.
Okay.
There's no facilities committee. The committees that have been brought back are the budget and safety committees.
Good to know. Thank you.
there we go.
okay, is there any interest in, serving on the bylaws committee from any member CBOC? Don, may I? appoint
I'm
you
going
chair?
back to what was said a couple months ago. Not for old people like me to step aside and let the new people choose the new direction of the CBOC.
Okay,
Well, you don't have to be the committee chairman. You just be on the committee.
I mean, I totally appreciate that. I think
Especially since you can't.
if you're gonna contribute to, like, I think we need to all contribute, and choosing to not join committees is not, but also voicing criticism and critique is only, is not, I don't think that's genuine. I feel like we need to be able to form committees to do the work, to be able to create solutions to the issues that you raise with such clarity and detail. And I feel like I don't know how we're gonna make, who's gonna make that solution come true if we don't form committees and do the work.
I don't disagree with you. You need to form the committees and people need to volunteer for it. But right now,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
still not me.
So,
I took what was said to heart.
yeah, I'm gonna chair the bylaws committee. Does anybody else want to join that committee?
I don't want to join just yet as the newbie on the team, but I was actually gonna say as well, Don, I know that I am new, but I think that you have a wealth of knowledge, and experience. And even not being the chair, I think that you would be a tremendous asset, to the bylaws committee. Because even though we want to, gain new ground, what has been historical and what has been the foundation is still very important in making sure that we continue to do business, as it should. And I think that you would be an amazing asset to the bylaws committee.
So I wrote the initial bylaws, the CBOC, and wrote most of the additions, but then there, somehow what we had was thrown away and a kind of a pseudo board policy was replaced. But again, right now, I'm just taking a step back.
I think that we are a committee, we have to get work done. I think it should be a requirement of members of the committee to be on some committee. You can't just sit here and say, I'm not gonna do it. So we've got to fill these committees, so if people don't volunteer, we should appoint them. That's just my feelings.
Right, if we, and if chairs are appointed, that has to be ratified.
Nope.
No,
No. In your bylaws, it just says, I'll read it right here. CBOC chairperson shall appoint a chair for each subcommittee. This is the subcommittee of the CBOC. In some instances, in some cases, you'll read in bylaws that the chair appoints to be not to be ratified by the board. That's not a requirement you have. You appoint the chair. Membership is gonna be volunteer. People are gonna have to volunteer, but you're doing the chair.
okay. Okay, so anybody else for joining the bylaws committee? Any interest there? I think this is an opportunity to take the current state of our approved bylaws and add, edit, rework them to our liking and approve them to help clarify any questions around how our committee operates. So by the intent, I think, of this committee is to get the bylaws revised and approved so that we can move forward without having any issue to the state of our bylaws and what they include or do not include.
And the committee's gonna bring the material to the subcommittee's gonna bring the material to the committee will be making the decision. It's not like you're out there and have to do this all on your own.
That's right. Right, and I want to say, that it won't be sustainable if the committee comes back 3 times to try to get the bylaws approved and the whole body doesn't approve because there's not buy-in for whatever reason. So that's what the expectation would be, that, if anybody feels strongly about the bylaws, that we join the committee, we get it done, we approve it, and we move on so that we don't have to talk about the bylaws in the latter part of this year. So,
If you volunteer.
no, she didn't. Not officially. Okay. So I will chair that committee and I will look for input amongst our members as I work through that. Item L is establish an ad hoc website committee. This would include, obviously all aspects of our website, bringing content up to date and relevant to the bond program and the work currently underway. Lorraine, I know you expressed some interest. You also expressed hesitation because you want to focus on the annual report right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any urgency other than establishing our committee. So there's there's structure to then be able to kind of agendize report out from these committees as we move forward.
Yes, I'm interested in doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I
Any-
don't have to be the chair. I don't care. I just want to get in there on that website and rearrange.
Is there anybody?
Quick question.
Oh.
Rather than create this as an ad hoc, which again, we got to follow Brown Act and all that, we could get this as a task to Lorraine. She can come back report back with a list of suggestions and all that at a meeting. That way you would not need a whole committee.
I was under the impression ad hoc was not Brown Act.
Ad hoc is not Brown Act, but updating all the
It's a
changes to the
one-time
website.
thing. It's a one-time thing.
You think it's gonna be a one-time thing? We're not gonna have continued subject matter jurisdiction?
Well,
Okay.
I mean,
Let's try it.
We don't have a
We're
right
fighting alone on that one.
to we don't even have access to the website to post anything.
I'm sorry?
No, the main, we don't
Oh,
have.
posting goes through
presently
staff?
Here
Access.
comes this.
I'm sorry.
I
I
think,
said it
you know,
comes to us to post.
Oh,
Well,
The
that's-
district.
it's to bring it up to date,
okay.
not maintain.
Yeah,
Is that a good just?
Yes, it's
distinction?
a
Yeah.
good, that's a very good distinction.
Okay.
All right.
Anyone else interested? Oh, Don?
I'm not interested, but I just, again, the previous board policy, we actually had one person from the CBOC that had access to it. It was the chair. I was the chair at the time, to help make sure that what was on the website was accurate. That it was up to date and that things didn't disappear, which was a problem going over many, many years. Since the very first website was put together. I'm in charge of that one as well. But we used to have access to our website.
Mhm.
It took a lot of effort to get the superintendent Duffy at the time, to agree to that. But he understood it was in the best interest of the CBSC and the public for that to happen.
If I could just comment, so, the district is looking at redesigning the website, our district website, because our current provider is no longer. At some point in the future, we'll be hosting the Blackboard site, so, the redesign is inevitable. We do want to give the CBOC access to it. Right now, it's just some of the cumbersome nature of the website, makes it difficult, so we've been uploading the content that must go on the site.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have our own website or blog or something, or is against our bylaws?
well, the law says that the, district maintains the website. They have to provide, a place for you to post things. It's more like a web page than a website, actually. So they have to provide you a place to post things and they maintain it. So you tell them what to put on it. And they'll put it on it, but I don't think the CBOC has a website of its own.
I would go out on limb and say, I don't think it's against like the rules. But we would then have to make sure that we had a sustainable way to maintain it and then also pay for the domain.
Pay for.
Pay for it, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not,
websites aren't free.
not a huge amount of money, but that would be another step in getting approval.
Can we ask school district to pay for it?
I think it'd be worth like having a discussion amongst ourselves about what that would mean.
I recommend that we bring the communications department into conversation and let them give an update on where we are with our current state of webpage.
Yeah.
And the district internet, and we're moving.
Then can we invite communication department to the meeting next?
As I
month?
said, if we agendize that, then we can get them to come to one of our future meetings to do that.
Okay.
So, one way to do this is to have the website committee kind of ponder the game plan. And then we agendize kind of, the next steps and invite communications. Does that sound like a good?
Yeah, I think one good thing is to look, because like, I think our, the documents we have that up there are not
I'm
current.
about to run out of battery soon.
For instance, the,
Right, they're way out of date.
yeah, even the,
You should be good.
Constitution, the project or Proposition 39 came out in 2000, and I don't think they've updated the Constitution, so it needs a lot of updating. There's a lot of material on it that needs archiving, so we can work on that.
I
so
said
that
battery's
the-
not charging.
The actual, creating the website, we can work with the, district on.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
It sounds like that would only take creating, a landing page, for the committee, still under this, district, domain, but, there is a way to create a landing page almost as, a branch off of the Vine. So that way any of the members or the public can, click on the domain and go straight to, the CBLC site.
Yeah, matter of fact, if you just Google WCC, USD,
Yeah.
EBOC, you go to it.
Right.
I appreciate all the comment. I think this is perfect conversation for the website committee.
Yeah.
And we can, I wrote a note for a future agenda item to invite the communications team. Once we kind of get a sense of, what direction we want to take. But it certainly would be a conversation amongst ourselves, to determine that. So, yeah.
Does the district have a communications director now?
Yes,
Yeah, who-
Rochelle Forrest,
Okay, I mean, the last I got, she was interim.
but she is communications.
Okay, it's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, so Lorraine is gonna serve as the chair to the website committee. Thank you, Lorraine. Okay, item M, establish another ad hoc committee.
This is definitely not.
This is not ad hoc.
It is absolutely mentioned, and I brought it up, it is mentioned
this
in your bylaws.
Site visit committee.
And they don't formally call it a committee, it is because it's one of your jobs. Then it says inspecting school facilities and grounds to ensure blah, 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 blah. So this needs to be a
Standing,
standing, correct. Thank
okay,
you.
And-
Work it right there.
Volunteer for that? I volunteer.
awesome. Do you want to be chair?
Yes, you do.
You can go as high as
Vincent,
I
first
want.
one.
Under Roberts, that's actually how it works.
Yeah. first one.
First one,
I've never done that before, though.
we'll help you.
You're gonna.
And Brendan will help you, everybody here will help you.
Okay.
Good requirement.
And also Carolyn, who is from the CABOC. She has a presentation. She said she would come and give us a presentation, and she would help the site inspection committee on their first day site inspection.
Can I invite you to be any of you to be my committee member?
And that's an excellent first thing to do as a chair. Well, you say you don't know how to do that, that was very well done.
I will commit to working with you for sure.
Thank you, President, Chairman.
And I think kind of figuring out a schedule, right?
Yeah.
A starting point to start getting some of these, on the books would be great. One question around that, just briefly, is if it is a standing committee, we've talked briefly about how we manage public engagement, public access during those site visits. How we manage quorum issues of the whole committee if we have. So is there any best practices or guidance or resolution that would allow us?
Yeah, and that's actually really easy. You could say meet here or meet at the school, call your meeting to order. Is there anything you need to discuss?
Post it.
And that's
Go
what
in
you
the
post,
private,
and you post the public comment there. And then you're done, and then you say, the committee will have a site visit and will report back at the next meeting. You're not going in a closed session, you're just going in, like going on a field trip and then coming back. It's really, really important that report back.
Yes.
You've got to have the report back.
report back at that same time.
So that's not required because you're not going into closed session, but report back no later than your next meeting.
Okay,
And you can even do a report back by sending out and posting, like on the website. Maybe Don can help you with that. Whatever happened, and then we'll include it in your next minute.
okay,
But that's
Great.
report back.
Comment on site visits that, Lewis can attest to this, in the past decade, with the exception of once where Denise Gianni attended part of a tour, a site visit of Pinole Valley High School. I'm the only person in the CVOC that has ever gone out on site visits. Okay, the interest is there in this room. The interest is not there when it says meet out at the school. It just doesn't happen that very much, especially for those of you that actually have day jobs. Because you can't do this at night. You've noticed it's kind of dark outside. It's dark outside very, very early. And so it makes it very difficult unless you want to try to do it on a weekend. And then you've got to need to talk about staff,
yeah.
taking them away
Well,
from their homes and families. on there. But it's, to me, it's so critical to have site visits. I've been trying and trying and trying through here, and it was agreed, and then it was said, no, we can't give you a site visit. We've been trying through the communications department as a member of the media to get site visits on there. Because I mean, like you get Lake Elementary School, they're painting the walls. Okay, I can't be inspecting the foundations now, can I? Same thing at Hercules Middle School. Being able to go visit, the Kennedy High School and Richmond High School is critical for us to know what's going on out there. Now, Lewis gave me a tour of Kennedy High School 14 months ago. I appreciated that. It's not quite the same as it is right now. Ellen gave me a tour of the football field at Kennedy High School 8 or 9 months ago. I appreciated that. But it's critical for us to be able to see, how can we tell the public about the oversight of the bond program? We've never been to any of the projects.
Yeah, well, I agree, and we now have a committee, and I think we're gonna get some site visits scheduled. And I think, I have some ideas of how to be flexible enough to meet member needs, staff needs, kind of balance. I think we take advantage of longer daylight hours in the summer. Maybe more smaller groups in the winter based on availability. I think we should talk about ways to maximize engagement with the goal being that every member gets to go once or twice or more. And that we do it in a way that doesn't overburden all of us on the weekend or,
I'm worried that our first site visit will be the ribbon cutting.
well, let's make sure that's not the case. Let's get a game plan in place. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, thank you, Ariel.
Oh, one thing too, we already have the committees, and talking about committees, the annual report, and I was talking with, Tammy at one time, and you were saying that is a subcommittee.
The,
The
Annual
annual
report.
report, what we do is, we only concentrate on one period. Once you're done with that annual report, that's it.
but that's your job for the whole year. That's your charge for it
A few months,
it's just
yeah.
an ongoing job. Yes, it'll be done when your report is done, but this is not a one-off event. It happens continuously, so that's why it qualifies
Even
as
though the
standing
members
committee.
change on it,
I'm sorry?
even though the members who
Yes,
are on the committee
absolutely.
change.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have to figure out how to logistically do that. That's the hard part.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So we here have to be Brown Act compliant, and it kind of sets people off like, oh my gosh, we have to do all this much. All you have to do is post. And for that type of a committee, or really any type of a subcommittee, utilize being able to use Zoom. I mean, what a great resource. Yes, you have to post your address. You have to post the address of everyone on the committee. You do not have to identify anyone, the name of the person. Like if Brendan wants to have a bylaws committee meeting and he wants to do it over Zoom, he has to put his address. It just has to say the address. It does not have to say with a big arrow, Brendan lives here, go visit him. He has milk, he has cookies. No one's going to show up, okay? Between being a parliamentarian and being on boards, this is 20 years. I have had someone show up at my house one time. And there has never been a time that I wasn't using some kind of an electronic meeting space, be it Zoom or, Google or anything that came up before that. So it sounds awful. It really is. It's not that bad. Try it, embrace it. Don had a question.
Okay, Don?
Sorry, I keep reading all these newspaper reports about, bodies that are being sued because they do not allow people into their homes. The city of Berkeley is a good example of that, where they're not, it's a body of dealing with disabled people. You've got people that are bedbound. And theoretically, they're supposed to invite the public into their bedroom during those Zoom meetings. And it's not very practical. They're being sued because of that, obviously, and I hope they win. But this whole idea of posting your address and thinking then you don't have to let people in.
Yes, you do.
What?
I know, you have to let people in.
Yes,
Oh,
but
yeah,
that's,
that's what I'm
that's
saying.
not the way it was
No,
kind of being interpreted, that,
You have to post your address because it's I'm sorry, let me be a little more clear if you'll allow. You have to post your address. Members of the public can come to your location and participate in the meeting there. Your location has to be ADA compliant. For those of you that say, oh, I have steps inside my house, great, you've got a driveway. I'll bet 10 to 1 your driveway is ADA
Yeah.
compliant. If someone actually shows up, hold the meeting in your driveway. I do know the case that Donna is talking about, and I sincerely hope that these people win.
Yes.
The lawsuit is really to try and force the legislature to change the rules regarding how many teleconferences and does everybody have to be at that one location? Because there are certainly with bedbound or handicapped people, absolute legitimate complaints, and unfortunately, the rules of Brown Act hasn't caught up with that, so I'm always happy to see those kind of items to move forward, but for now.
Okay,
yes,
so
we gotta
maybe
post
we
your
do need to just create some space to talk about our committees complying with Brown Act and, how do we make that easier? Whether we use, template agendas that can be submitted and have, help. Staff can help post. I mean, because we'll have to post physically as well, right?
Mhm.
So, okay, so anyway, that may be another future item. Moving on to item N. Summary and next steps pertaining to the CBOC meeting with the superintendent and Contra Costa County Taxpayers Association, right?
Yeah. Would you go to page 39, L? At the last meeting, we showed everybody the letter from the Contra Costa Taxpayers Association backing us on the needs for the committee and the non-compliance to Proposition 39. There were 6 items there, and some of them can be put together. But essentially, when I became the president, or chairperson, I looked at just to see what the status was, what we had. And I found out that there were several areas we were not compliant with the laws, the ed codes. So I wrote up a report, gave it to the meeting. And the members of the meeting suggested we send it out to the public. One of the people in the public we sent it to was Cocoa Tax. And Cocoa Tax was the only one who really responded. So, Jack Weir, who is one of the board members of Cocoa Tax, he came to the meeting, gave us a draft of what this letter would be. And that's during public comment. Then the next time, the letter was sent to the, and that was on July 10th that I presented the one. August 23, we brainstormed because Jim Asgalia, who is the vice chairperson of Cocoa Tax, called me and expressed interest. So we just sort of brainstormed what to do. September, I sent the report to the superintendent, asked for a meeting. October, Cocoa Tax meeting asked, well, they had a joint meeting between the board and the members. And at that meeting, I expressed interest in having them back us on this matter. At that meeting, Jack Weir was there. He said, well, what's your next meeting? I'll come to it. So in November, he came and gave the draft to the committee. In December, we sent the final revision of the letter to the superintendent and the Board of Education and asked for a meeting. Superintendent Hurst was very prompt in responding all the time, I'd like to say. So in January 30th, we had a meeting. It was Superintendent Hurst, Trustee Smith Folds, Brandon, myself, and Lewis. And we discussed the letter, and essentially what the cocoa tax was asking for, and we were asking for, is for the district to set up a committee to address these problems and to give us a timeline about when they would be willing to work on it and get us back into compliance. So the next slide, Ellen. So I made up, for this meeting, I made up several reports. One of them, this is in your on page, well, anyway, page 40 on the thing. This is the FAI implementation review. Now, in 2016, one of the employees of the department, Dennis Clay, worked in finance, and he was a whistleblower. He came in, he said, something's wrong here, it's not working out. So they never had a criminal investigation. But what the board decided to do was have a financial, a forensic accounting investigation. And so they hired a company, Vincetti, Lloyd and Stutzman. They came in, the district paid, it cost $1 million, the district paid $500,000, bond money paid $500,000. A lot of it dealt with controls. And they were looking to where there might be wasteful and abuse in the system. So they came up with recommendations. They had 112 recommendations. And again, it was mostly with controls. So the board set up a task force to implementation task force to implement these controls. And that's where this slide that is up there now, it's a bar diagram. It says essentially what this descriptive says, but it shows you. You see on the left column, there were 112 recommendations. The VLS did their, and that came from VLS. Then the district hired Moss Adams to verify them, an outside company, and they also do performance evaluations or performance audits. They do financial audits. So the district said we have 62, the second bar, we have 62 recommendations that we've implemented. So Moss Adams came in, they looked at them, and they found out in the third section that the blue 33 of those 62 were implemented according to their standards. 29 were not. So now you have 50 that were never touched. You have the 29 that were implemented and the 33 that they're back, they were to go back and work on implementing it to the standards of Moss Adams evaluation. And this is where it stood since 2019. They have since hired Edie Bailey, who does our performance audits presently. And they are going to look at the group of the 29 that were not implemented according to Moss Adams. The district has said they've implemented them all. And Moss Adams, and that's phase 1.5. Phase 2, Moss Adams will see if they've implemented the 50 that they never had implemented before that time. So one of the problems was, well, this has been several years. Where are we and what has happened here? The contracts are out with Moss Adams. The contracts are out for Edie Bailey. Now, are we paying for this implementation examination by these two companies? Are we paying part of it? How is that? Because the first one was half board, half.
Well, we only pay for services that are provided, so they have a contract.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, we only pay for services that are provided, right? So they have a contract, so they'll work with Moss Adams, forensic investigation 2.0. So that audit, I believe we're bringing that forward in our April meeting,
So that's coming out of bond funds.
but it's coming out of just, actually, it's. I'm gonna say no. I can confirm that.
Oh, you checked that for us?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And also, now Anton knew Moss Adams because of CABOC. Moss Adams sponsors the conferences, and they've given things. He said that they are working on it, but they, again, as always, they don't have enough employees to get them the material to finish it. So they are actively doing these
Yes,
evaluations.
they are.
Is there any timetable on when it might be done?
Yeah, I believe we're gonna bring it to the meeting, the joint meeting in April.
Okay, good. So again, this is something that the committee, that the district sets up can
Yes.
work on. So that's the next one is page 42. And this deals with our financial reports. In our packet, we used to get 6 reports. You've seen report number 2, which is the site by site. You've seen one consolidated budget report, which tells what there used to be 3 of them. One was program wide, and I think you've gone back to that. Second one was master plan, and the third one was the measure arm. We would get the report 13, which is a financial status report. We would get a variance report 13A dealing with that financial status. We would get accounts payable, and we get payroll data talking about how much we would be paying the district for their employees to do work that's specifically for CBOC monitoring. And that was a attorney general of the state looked at Proposition 39. 39 originally said we should not pay anything for the district employees' work. But then I think the districts got together and they asked for him for opinion. And since this is only work pertaining to the CBOC monitoring, they said they could pay the employees for that. So you'd see a breakdown on the payrolls in the other one. Now, if you turn to the next one, you'll see a chart. So I took, I didn't do the payroll, but I took the other reports, and up along the top, you'll see report number 2, the site by site, the 3 consolidated reports, report 13, 13A, and the accounts payable checklist. And I went through each month for the 4 years. In 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The Y, the black Y says we got a report. The N says we did not get a report, and the green tells that's a report we got late. For instance, in the first, under report 2, you see in June. And then you go across and you see in 22, that same report, even though it was for June, was not received until November. And that's what the green ones are. You can see in the last, over next to the last column, the accounts payable, you'll see there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11 reports that were presented late in November, no matter whether they were supposed to be for February. So this shows that we are not getting the reports we need, and our job is to follow the money. Make sure that, so it's essential that we get these reports. So one of the things that the committee was going to do was, and also they have paid Colby to get somebody up on these reports. What happened was in November of 22, the fiscal coordinator for the bond program moved to the business department. And evidently no one knew how to input data except her. So that they were trying to train outside people and all, but evidently it's not as easy to import the data as you might think. And they tried hiring somebody else. it didn't work. So, but they've got to get this working for us. So I'm real pleased that, Lewis tonight is showing that they are definitely making a approach on this. So that's another point that was brought up. The third point starts on page 47. You see CBOC membership before 21. Let everybody get to that. This was, it's a chart on the left, a little partial chart. I think it's a couple back from, yeah. Everybody got that? All right. I went back to, 2005. What happened was the grand jury did a report in 2014 to 2015. The title of it was a case of stymied oversight. And this is directly from their report. And they went through and they looked to see about the members. You have a legal number of, according to the Ed Code, you have to have a minimum of 7 members on the CBOC. 5 of them have to be from specialized categories. So this is just the data from 2005 to 2020 that was in that, or to 2015 anyway. And then you see around 2018, it goes, they're 18, 17, 24, and then all of a sudden it hits 8, 9, 7. Something happened, and according to the report down there, you see CBOC size. At one time, the city councils were sponsoring people to be on the committee. The trustees were sponsoring people, so that's why they had such a large committee. The grand jury investigation found that that was a limiting in order for them to get a quorum. It was hard to get a quorum if you have so many people. So then I went from that, I went to 2021. And I looked at the CBOC members. And in the left column, it tells you the year. I have 2021, 2022, and I have 2023 and January of 2024. The center column tells us the actual members on the committee. The legal required representatives, again, it tells you the actual number. And in the comments section, it's the initials of the members and whether they were business representative or tax representative or AL is at large members. And I did that for the 3 years and 1 month. And you can see in this case, we have some 7s, have 5s and 6s. We have 4s, 3s, it just tells you. And at the bottom, the next page, it follows it through on year 2023 and January 24. And when you look at that, you find out that in 2021, of the 7 members, we had 7 out of 12 months. We had 7 members, which is 58%. 5 legally, 25%. In 22, we had 33% of each. And in 23 and 24, we had 50% 7 members, and 0% of the time did we have all 5 of the required members. So this was just to show them some data that this is a problem. You've got to fix it. And again, the committee's going to address this too. So we gave them this data, and they agreed to form a committee and get back to us on how at this meeting, as Lewis did, tell us how the committee is coming. I don't know, have you formed the actual committee, Lewis?
We met as a subgroup last week.
I'm sorry.
We met last week.
Okay, good. So the committee has been formed. So then, so that's the status right now, and we'll be following this, and hopefully we'll have project dates when we get this material accomplished.
Thank you,
Okay.
Lorraine. Is there any discussion questions or comments on this? Don?
I have two. One is on the FAI and the other one is on the CBOC membership section there. You know, in regards to the FAI, this is something all you newbies really need to become acquainted with. Because it was a 900-pound gorilla for a long time. If you don't understand what happened, how it happened, and the impact it had on us, you're not gonna be able to do your job properly. You know? When the 1,756 page forensic accounting investigation was completed, the auditors voiced their strong objections to this report being made available to the public. Yeah, BLS didn't even want the public to know about it. Want to keep it in-house. That should concern anybody that has to do with a $1 million audit. As to normally reports like this are given a minimum of 30 days for public review and written comment. When the report is as exhaustive as this one was, the period is often extended to 45 or even 60 days. That says the board gave the public 9 days to review this report and submit comments. 1,756 pages. Okay. At the board meeting that this was agendized, the public was given just 90 seconds to comment. 90 seconds on a 1,756 page report. Protests were made, but they were ignored. The audit report contradicts what we're reading here. The audit report was accepted by the board. It was not approved. Big difference on there. All they did is, yes, we've got it. Not that we agree with everything that's in it. All right. The agenda and minutes from the meeting are clear on that. After voting to accept the report, the board voted to allow comments to be submitted, but 3 of the board members admitted that they would not read those comments on a report they had already voted to accept and would never revisit. Okay, many of us submitted our comments nonetheless. My own comments were nearly 50 pages in length and pointed out the many flaws in the auditing process, in particular the fact that BLS never even spoke to most of the key persons involved with the bond program. It had several pages about me, and they never talked to me. Okay, typically auditors start at the bottom, gathering info and work their way up the food chain until they get to the key persons. BLS ran out of money before they could speak with the key persons, but that didn't stop them from voicing their thoughts on what they believed to have happened, even though they could not provide backup for much of it. 7 of the recommendations were never made public or even shared with the CBOC. The claim was that attorney-client privilege was attached. Even the board was kept in the dark. Since everyone involved at that time has since moved on, including the attorneys, no one even knows for sure what those items were or the status of them. That should scare you just a little bit. The board approved $968,000 from the bond program to pay for this audit. For 16 months in a row, I went on record at the CBOC meetings pointing out that this expenditure was illegal, but we were assured that the bond attorneys verified that bond funds could be used for this audit. When asked to provide the documentation, we were told once again that attorney-client privilege was attached. After 16 months, though, we were informed that the attorneys were mistaken and the money had to be repaid from the general fund back into the bond program. And this is what oversight is actually supposed to look like. We're looking at this money, make sure it's being sent properly. Okay, they decided that the money should be split, or the cost should be split. But at least the bond program got half of that $1 million back. Okay, with regards to the section on the CBOC membership, again, a little history lesson. There's an assumption that the grand jury is an infallible body that knows more than the rest of us, even though they rarely reach out to the people who actually do know what's going on. Much of the information provided in this particular grand jury report was spoon-fed to them by a small group of persons who personally hated the bond program, voiced their repugnance at having to pay taxes, and held personal grudges against the architect of the bond program, board president Charles Ramsey. Sorry. The 26 pages of comments I submitted in response to this report shot holes in a great many of the allegations and inaccuracies included therein. For example, at one point, the CBOC actually had 28 members, with each member representing a specific group. The reason for that at the time, it came out at the beginning of the CBOC, was that the board was placing a lot of bond measures on the ballot. They wanted the buy-in of influential groups and organizations to lend credibility to the bond program. Contrary to what some people still claim, individual board members never had the authority to appoint anyone to the CBOC. The most they could do was recommend for consideration of an applicant. The applicant would come before the facilities committee for a public interview, and the application would come before the full board and the public for review, consideration, and a public vote. The board policy was amended several times with the size of the CBOC reduced and the process opened up. For instance, city councils and county supervisors stopped being allowed to cherry pick who served. If a person lived, worked, or owned a business in a city or one of the 8 unincorporated areas, they could apply. Most of the group representations as well as board nominations were abolished as well. 2 holdouts included 2 special interest groups, the building trades rep and the solutions team rep, both of which sat largely vacant for 7 years. That's one of the reasons that you had the drop down to only 9 people. We couldn't fill those positions. Board members Cuevas insisted that a student rep also be added. In the 7 years this spot existed, there were only 2 student reps, and they served a total of 15 months total, even though they committed to 2 years each. This was a feel-good measure that made some board members look good come election time, but it made the CBOC look bad with the performance auditors every year because of the vacancies. Between those 2 other positions, that was 3 vacancies every year. And they made us look bad. We got dinged in a performance audit. The assumption is incorrect that about what happened after the grand jury report. These were recommendations by a group of volunteers that elected board members were free to accept or reject. They chose to reject some of these recommendations on the CBOC. The grand jury report demanded it be reduced down to a certain size, and the board says, no, thank you very much. But these are my comments on these, but and a little bit of a history lesson.
Thank you, Don. Any other questions, comments?
I would like to see how do I access the previous FAI reports in order to become familiar with them? What's the process in becoming familiar? It's on the website.
If you start for the FAI report, start in 2015, the annual reports,
Okay.
and they give a description, and each year they usually talk about what has happened in that year.
Okay.
You just go to WCCC, USD, CBOC, and then there's a drop-down menu on reports. Go down to annual reports, and that'll get you there.
Thank you.
The district's website has the link to the FII report.
So, Lorraine, do you know if this chart came out of the 2019 report, FAI report?
I think it was in the 2018
2018.
report. And then we had an interim report in 2019, and it might have been in there also, I'm not sure.
Here.
And so, I just have this thought. And once we have our annual report done, so we send to, Coco,
Tax.
Coco Tax and some other organizations. Maybe we can also send to the cities, where the residents pay for the tax
Yeah.
money.
Last year, we started sending it out, and what I did is I took the executive summary at the
Okay.
beginning,
Okay,
and I sent it out to the city councils. I sent it out to EdSource, which is a education newspaper. Sent it out to the East Bay Times. I sent it out to the supervisors, to the county supervisors. Sometime, I sent it out to public libraries,
Yeah.
and some of them posted, some of them didn't. And in that, I gave them a link to the annual report. So that is good to get it out to the public, but I had also started, like Brandon had said when he first came, that we should have a 1-page summary of it for the public, because this was 13 pages. Nobody's gonna pick that up,
right.
So, and I sent it to each board member.
Cool.
So I think we should continue that. That's a good suggestion.
And since we want to recruit more members, can we ask cities to post the recruitment ad?
We have it on our website, first page of the website is a recruitment type thing.
But
Yeah,
they usually have newsletters and
Yeah.
their own website. Can we reach out to them and post our thing on their website?
Yeah, I think we can do any and all outreach that we,
Mhm.
Yeah, I did pass out flyers at the EdSource or,
Career
no, it wasn't career fair, it was,
Ed Bear?
the Ed Fair, yes. I was at the Ed Fair and I passed out, CBOC
Yeah.
flyers there.
And I know trustee Reckler has been going to community events and talking about recruitment.
And it's on our communications that go out. It's linked mostly to some of the school site communications that go out. It's on the website. So, and we're trying the outreach.
It's on the Friday, what used to be referred to as the Friday memo, but is now the community newsletter, I believe. It's on there, as well, every week, so.
I think it is possible, one way of kind of bringing more attention to that is also getting those flyers out. I haven't seen the flyers, but, getting the flyers out maybe to, site council meetings, PTA meetings, APAC meetings. I actually became aware of the board because I am so active. I was already a part of the site council and stuff on the school, campus. And someone from the office suggested or made me aware of the CBOC. But prior to that, I was not aware of that. And I think that if more parents are made aware, or at least given the opportunity to be made aware, that is a way that we can get more parent and public involvement for the membership, for the members.
Yeah, I think that's great input. I think we should agendize this topic maybe to collect some more ideas. I have some. I'd like to work with staff, but I think we could do a pretty good job at promoting. And there's some stakeholders out there that should definitely be at the table, namely the ones that are benefiting from these big projects, right? So,
And I think it's very important to try to get the right people on the committee. Because you can get someone that knows nothing about.
yeah, let's agendize this.
Yeah.
We can talk about it further.
Since we need to do more outreach, is it possible to have like business card or something that we can show to people?
Yeah.
Put it on the-
Let's agendize that. Let's,
Yeah, it's outside of the scope of. what
and
this-
I will talk with staff about that. Okay, item O, amend the CBOC meeting schedule to reflect the joint school board meeting schedule that was recently adopted. So it's in the packet. There's two documents that show the school board's 2023-24 and 24-25 meeting schedules. And on those schedules, there are joint CBOC meetings. Thank you, Lorraine, for
44, for those who are looking for it in the packet.
Thank you, Lorraine, for sharing these documents. So I think simply here that we need to reflect these dates in our own CBOC meeting schedule. The joint meeting dates.
Actually, the one in April and September, they are on dates that we would have the second Monday of those months, or dates that we would be in session, so they took that into consideration in their planning.
So would the suggestion be to move the CBOC meeting so that it does not conflict on April 8th or September 9th with the joint meeting?
In the past, has the CBOC held the committee meeting in addition to the joint meeting? So there's been two meetings that month.
Again, the reason for that is you're extremely limited on what can be discussed at the joint meeting. Not by law, but by the people setting the agenda. It's two, sometimes as maximum 3 items that they'll allow to be discussed in a very brief period of time. And absolutely none of them have anything to do with what we've discussed here tonight. So if we decide to say, well, we'll abandon our meeting for that month and just stick with the joint meeting, it means that's essentially 2 months between our meetings.
Yeah.
To hear reports on what's going on with the progress of the schools, on the finances, and extremely limited discussion at the joint meetings, extremely limited. We had one where the board president decided to take complete control and would not allow anybody else to speak.
It was like, it was a board meeting that we were invited to. And
We weren't even invited, we were allowed to sit there. It was insulting. I said, and by the way, before that, the CBOC chair and the board president shared responsibility for conducting the meeting. You say, okay, you take care of item number one, you take care of item number two. It was actually a joint meeting. That changed.
so I would just suggest you get together with trustee Smith Folds and work together on the meeting and the agenda.
Yes.
At one time, they had the audits presented to both at the joint meeting.
So that was a critical part because we're supposed to finalize it 2 weeks before this joint meeting. And hard to do that if it's not being presented to us.
Well, we're supposed to get it by March 31st.
Yes, but it's.
Yeah.
Even the board is supposed to get it before then.
Yeah.
This last year, where they weren't able to because they had manpower issues.
So, I guess this is a little bit more involved. So we want to acknowledge these joint meetings. However, April 8th falls on a CBOC meeting day, which means we would have to move our regular committee meeting to another day. Is
That
that,
is September 9th.
and September 9th. So they both,
I'm sorry, I haven't looked at the calendar. Are you saying that they fall on a Monday
they do.
Yeah,
as opposed to a regular school board night?
yes,
Correct.
they adjusted it to our calendar.
Now,
That's new.
if that hopefully may signal a collaborative approach.
Mhm.
If we can, build that agenda in a collaborative and joint way, how do members feel about that being our CVOC meeting? Or do we feel that we need to create a new CVOC, a second CVOC meeting for those months that hold the joint meeting schedule?
Special meeting.
It should be a special meeting. Because those two meetings, the 8th and the 9th, we already fall on our regular meeting dates, so we would hold special meetings.
Is the joint meeting, wouldn't it be considered a special meeting, not a CBOC meeting?
Well, except they're doing it on the joint meetings are both of your meetings and you both have to have them, so it's still gonna be considered one of your meetings. And it falls on a regular meeting date. So I don't know if anyone do want to have a meeting. The other thing is, how much have you heard from the school board? How much time do they need? Because we could keep our meeting time and have the joint meeting after.
There would be an agenda setting review that would happen.
Right, if we know approximately how long that is, if it's going to be half hour or an hour.
So trustee Smith Falls says we made them on the days that you already meet to value everyone's time. This agenda will be set by the board president, the CBOC president, and the superintendent. I don't want to run this meeting. It's a joint meeting and I am committed to that. So are we okay with keeping that as our sole meeting for the month?
For the month of April and September, thank you. You could also have the joint meeting, and if for some reason you feel you need more time or another meeting after that, you could have to call a special meeting afterwards.
Any thoughts, comments, feelings about it?
Why don't you work with trustee Smith Folds on the agenda type thing? Because we've got a couple of those before we have to decide anything.
Mhm.
And then come back and maybe talk to us and we can decide if we need a separate meeting at that point.
Lynn?
I would be okay with it, that being our meeting for the month, because it's only twice in a year's time. So instead of, unless there's absolutely a need for a special meeting to be called, separately, I think that we would be okay. I think that it would be okay if that is the meeting for the month, since it's only happening twice.
Thank you. Don, do you have a thought?
I would rather have as two meetings.
Okay.
I think I stated before.
So let's work on a proposal for that for next meeting. And, I want to bring this item back, for next meeting.
Another thing to consider on that, in the past, usually the secretary will take minutes for us, and then the board would have minutes. At the last meeting, they had minutes, they had the board meeting minutes, and we had no say in them. So, in the past, we've each kept their own minutes separate.
That's critical, because what they believe is important may not be the same thing that we believe is important.
Were there ever joint meeting minutes approved?
By
Or,
who?
well, for
The
both
board
bodies?
will approve their minutes, so the board will take the minutes and they'll approve their minutes. for the
Okay.
meeting. If the CBOC chooses to keep a separate set of minutes for themselves, they can do that.
Mhm. Okay,
True.
all right.
And then you would put it
Would you like to see comparison side by side?
You can look at that.
No, I mean,
Would you?
Yeah,
I would
you're
love
saying
to. Would you send those to me?
well,
Please.
it would, that's it,
They differ.
yes.
Yeah.
Not just so much as content, but, style. You know, we didn't take action minutes. Meeting started, we had a vote to approve this, meeting ended. We didn't have that. We actually, you read our minutes and you could tell something about what happened at the meeting.
Okay. All right, item P, so I wanted to acknowledge, these are the, CBOC ground rules and norms, I've called them. I want to acknowledge that these came from an agenda that Don put together, I want to say back in 2018. And I thought it was a good, starting point at minimum for our committee to kind of look at a set of ground rules and norms that we would like to include in our agendas moving forward. And so I wanted to just put it out there as a starting point and maybe get some input now and in the future, and then bring it back
No.
to
It did.
another meeting to actually ratify. Done.
I mean, only because it's 8:35 right now, and if the training session was supposed to start 20 minutes ago, maybe just, yeah, again, you've laid out what your intention is and bring it back for a much greater discussion
Mhm.
at a later meeting, rather than keep going on and on about it tonight. Okay, because we start time.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Questions?
Well, it would give us time to read about it, so we can discuss it at the second reading. That's when we vote on it.
Okay. All right, no other comments or discussion.
Did you want to postpone? Yeah, it's postponed.
Do we want to postpone that officially? Is that what I'm hearing? Or, I mean, it's there, it's on the table. We have, until, next month we can. I would just say, come prepared to ratify some ground rules that you're comfortable with. That's all.
You fulfilled the agenda, you had a first reading.
Okay.
Because it was in the packet, people could read it.
And in the future, remember, we do not have first readings.
No.
When we bring something forward, we amend it and then we adopt it. So.
Okay. Item Q, new and old business. Are there any this is a call for agenda items. Is there any agenda items that folks want to put forward for the future.
I think we should set up some processes, like for instance, with the, information request log. Sylvia keeps the log, but now that we're forming committees, you don't want 7 people sending requests in. She mentioned something about maybe CCing going through the chair. Another thing could be the chairman of the committee could send a request in type thing. So I'd just like us to set up some protocols for things like that.
And that's specifically for agenda items or just also questions for staff?
Yeah, for procedures that we will need to do. Like, for instance, agenda items. The district has a process that they ask for, where you write it down and you hand it in. If you want to do something on the agenda, maybe we could do something like that. And,
Okay.
yeah,
Do you think if we can set up a Google form for people, for members to submit their questions or meeting, agenda items requests?
I mean, I think sticking with email is
Okay,
straightforward enough right now.
and the ground rules do say about the bylaws do mention that the executive committee decides on the agenda. It doesn't mean that you ignore a request, but you decide on the agenda depending on time and so, et cetera. So if they'd send it in, it'd be a good idea.
Okay, yeah.
If you send in an agenda item request, please only send those to the chair or to the secretary. Remember, we have Brown Act. Please be very careful with emails.
You already have this form to be filled out. Are you continuing to use this practice or not?
Is that the one from the
Yeah,
table?
yeah.
I
I've
don't
never
think
used
I've ever
that.
used
Yes.
it.
What is it?
We'll pass it
We
down.
already have it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's.
The
over by
request
the
to
sign.
address the committee.
That might be just for public
Is
comment.
this,
Yes.
yeah,
Is
this
that what you've
is,
been using it for
this is
traditionally?
public comment.
Traditionally, yes, if the public were here in person.
Yeah,
But creating an agenda item request form, you can even create one electronically. We have many clients
Well,
that use that.
yeah,
It
I mean,
works out really well.
my preference would be to use email
Right,
and not, and abide by the Brown Act
Yeah.
and not CC everybody. So
Yeah.
just to reiterate, everybody's, sure about it, is that we can't have more than 3 members on an email. And even if there are, we can't forward those things to have conversations about things that would constitute a serial meeting, right?
Mhm.
So we just want to be super careful. I do send out messages to the committee, and I do CC everybody, and it's one way, pretty much, so.
and that's perfect, because no one can accidentally hit reply all.
Right.
That, the BCC method is, I commend you.
Quick question, does the chair need to, explain to the members why their, agenda items are not actually on the agenda?
Yeah.
There. Yes.
So remember that the chair and these, as you said, the executive committee, they're responsible for putting together the agenda.
Mhm.
If it's an illegal item, if it does not apply to CBOC, the chair should not be putting it on the agenda.
Mhm.
If it does apply,
Yeah.
okay, and it is a legal item, the chair may not say, I don't like it, it doesn't go on the item. It's the board that makes the decisions. However, the chair of the executive committee have to make judgments on how much time do we have on an agenda and what items have to take precedent. So you may have an item that doesn't get heard for 3 months just because, Brendan and the executive committee are saying, these items we have to deal with right away, especially reports and stuff like that.
But do they need to explain to the people who submit the request?
You can make a
Or
form to send back to the person who submits it, explaining that, yeah. And also we have the log, so you can see it's written here, hey, why hasn't this been agendized?
Thank you.
Any other, so Lorraine, if you have a specific, you made
Yeah. I'll write it. I'll
suggestion, if
send
you
it.
wanna write that up.
Sure.
Any other, agenda items for the future? They can be near future, they can be far future. Anything that has come to your
Yeah.
mind? Yes.
When I was setting up the training, Melissa, we had talked about having and also Lewis, we had talked about having KNN, who is our financial director, come and talk about bonds. And Melissa suggested, I had asked her, yearly, we get a report, and it's a compilation of several reports, but it gives us an idea of what was spent on bonds. What is the KPI, et cetera. We get that once a year. We haven't gotten that yet this year. We should get that for 24. And she suggested when we get that report, have the KNN also explain it to us. So that would be on a future agenda item. And I'll write that up for you and send it in to you.
Okay, thank you.
The value of a personal occurrence as opposed to a report is you can't ask a question of a report. And you say, I don't understand this, or what about that? I've never seen a report yet that responds back to me. But there is a cost, I'm sure you'll say, there's a cost factor of bringing KNN out here, isn't there?
No, we plan on bringing them out for one of the meetings. We just need to agendize it. So they'll come and present. It is part of their speech.
Very hefty fee.
Okay,
Question.
oh, yeah. Oh.
We have a comment and it pertains to agenda items. So these joint meetings are meant to be collaborative and taking notes on what should be done and what has been done unsuccessfully. Please feel free to reach out individually about what you would like to share with your president so that we can be brought back to the co-agenda setting meeting. And then follows is President Smith's email as well as her phone number. And all I ask is for the chance to show my value of unreasonable hospitality. Sorry, the lights have a really fun glare that stop you from reading certain sentences. So that's a public comment on future agenda items.
Okay. Thank you, President Smith Folds. Okay. Last item, actually, so the item R, the next scheduled meeting is March 11th, 2024 at 6:15 start time. And then our final item, S, adjournment in memory of Mr. Anton Younger.
Will you do that?
Yes.
On one of the reference documents, the future agenda items, document. I'd like,
Yes.
I'm getting there.
yeah, it's, the item number is, you have here down here, 24-01 for both of them.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the 24 stands for the year 2024. And the next number stands for, this is the first item in 2024, the second item in 2024.
Yes.
So these actually should be 02 and 03 because we had Don's request that he withdrew.
Okay.
Okay, and also, I don't remember talking about translation. Did you maybe do that?
That was in the survey that I sent out.
Oh,
It was a
okay.
suggestion that you had made, and then I followed up on email
Mhm.
just to confirm, but I can take that off if,
I just didn't remember doing it.
okay.
But,
I will confirm the dates with you on Don's request and then
Okay.
put it back on.
okay,
Um,
yeah, just go back to the last meeting. And it'll be on there.
Yeah, I thought that request was made in 23. So I mean,
Was.
Is it in 23?
so
Yeah.
do we want a rolling list of
No, you
items
wanted
or-
to get the bylaws.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
back in November.
23? Oh, okay. Yeah,
So there's a typo though. That should be 2402 for the
It
second
was also
line.
withdrawn in 2.
Okay, yeah, once we get the website up, we'll have these posted, so it'll be.
Okay, so I know it's late. I want to adjourn in honor and memory of Anton, and just offer an opportunity for anybody that worked or knew him to say any words if you feel moved to. I'll just start by saying I knew him for a very short amount of time, and having read his bio, was really kind of just inspired and moved by all the work that he's done for the public, for his community, and just the commitment he's shown to the world.
Mhm. I met Anton when I came on in 2019, and he was always very outward and very willing to tell you anything any question you had. No question was stupid. He would answer. He was so involved in this, and I also worked for him on the CABOC when he was the executive director, and I was one of the grunts that worked under him in that. And he was just this was his life. This whole thing was his life, and I think he did it well. He did the CBOC and the CABOC very well on it.
I'm not gonna read what I've read to the board short after Anton passed. So the WCCUSD has a longstanding tradition of paying tribute to employees that passed on. I would never try to take away from the tireless service of any employee, but it's not always just staff that have an impact on our district. One such person was Anton Young here. By the way, I knew Anton for over 20 years. Anton left us a few weeks back, and I just wanted to stand before you and say a few words about him. Anton can be a real SOB, a pain in our collective rears. And that's what made him such a value to our community. It's great to have community leaders who can get along with everybody, but we need community leaders that know when to get in the faces of people responsible to the community. Anton lived and died the WCCUSD bond program, more so than just about anybody else. Anton served on the WCCUSD Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for 10 years with an emphasis on the audit subcommittee. He frequently asked numerous questions about our audits and demanded responses. As a result, though, numerous WCCUSD staffers and even CBOC leadership would try to silence him. Of course, this meant that they were actually trying to silence the public, and that never helped to rebuild whatever faith and trust the public once had in the WCCUSD, the Board of Education, and the bond program. The West County community needed and still needs someone like Anton to look over the collective shoulders of the people tasked with spending $2.4 billion of our taxpayer dollars. Not only is this a lot of our money, but because it's borrowed money, it means that by the time it's paid off in 30 to 40 years, it will have been some really serious money. As an old guy, I'll get to pay for these new schools for the rest of my life. So if you youngsters, you youngsters, they'll may be able to tell your grandchildren when the debt is finally paid off. It's very likely that even more debt may be encumbered. That debt will need people like Anton to help ensure it's spent in a manner the taxpayers agreed to when they voted for the bonds. As someone who also served on the CBOC for 10 years with an additional 15 years off to the side as a member of the community, I valued my alliances with Anton. We worked well together. Anton was my friend, and I will miss him as a friend and as an ally. I hope this board, district staff, and the public will realize how valuable he was to us all. Thanks.
Thank you, Don. Anybody else?
Oh, it's really surprised to know Anton has passed. And during the few months I'm sitting next to him in this meeting, and I didn't realize until I get the news.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for putting that in there.
Yeah,
I
of
didn't
course.
read it in the papers, and I appreciate that.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned at 8:51. And if it's okay with everybody to postpone the training.
We'll be here next
month. Tammy will-
It's entirely up to you guys. I will be here as long as you are.
Thank you all for staying late. We can strive to tighten it up a bit, but I think we got a lot done today, so I'm happy that we got some committees set up.
Who was responsible for using the obituary that I sent in, not Anton?
Responsible for what?
Who was responsible for putting it in the agenda? I mean, what I sent in.
Oh,
I put it.
No,
Oh.
I feel good that somebody actually took advantage of what I put together, because